If you're wanting to migrate your contacts from another platform into Kajabi, this video is going to show you the steps in order to do that as well. I'm going to give you the do's and don'ts when it comes to importing your contacts into Kajabi. There's lots of little nuances. I see a lot of people do this process incorrectly because they are unaware of what needs to be done. I've imported many different contact lists for clients over the years, and it can be a very messy process if you don't do it correctly. I want to show you the easiest way to get it done, and I can tell you right now, preparation is the biggest part of this process. I'm going to show you exactly how to get your contact list ready to go into Kajabi, things that you need to think about when it comes to segmenting your list, because you don't really want to import everything all at once. You may need to import it into segments. So I'm going to show you how to do that. And we're going to actually jump into my Kajabi account and do a sample import so that you can see exactly how it's done. So if you are on a trial with your Kajabi subscription, as in you haven't paid for a subscription just yet, you're not going to be able to import your contacts. So it's really important that you do this step after you have paid for your subscription. Otherwise, it's just not going to give you that option to be able to upload your contacts. Now, if you think you're going to go and grab your entire list from your other platform and just go and throw it all into Kajabi without even doing anything with it, you are joking, because that is not okay. You're going to run into so many issues. You have to think about things like segmenting your list before you put it into Kajabi. And here's why. When you import into Kajabi, you need to decide if those people should be subscribed to emailing or not subscribed. Because if you think about it, people in your other platform, they gave you permission to email them, and they may have changed their mind and unsubscribed from you. It is not okay to move people into your Kajabi account and subscribe them if they've already said no to emailing them. You have to honor that in this migration. So this is where segmenting is really important. You're going to be segmenting them by subscribed and unsubscribed. And within that subscribed group, you're going to segment them by customers that have a product and customers are people who don't have a product. So with product, without product within that subscribe group. But then you also have your unsubscribe group. Now, you're not going to be moving people into Kajabi who are unsubscribed and don't have a product, because why? You can't email them and they don't own anything from you. So there's no point in even bringing them over. Just ditch them. So don't include them at all in this import. So if you have people who are unsubscribed, but they own a product and you have to give them that product in Kajabi because they purchased it and you said, hey, you're going to have this forever. Well, then you need to bring them over, but you got to put them into Kajabi as unsubscribed because that is what they requested. All right. So let's get these segments kind of sorted out completely. Now you have your subscribe group and your unsubscribe. So unsubscribe, super clear, easy. It's only customers that you're bringing into the unsubscribed group. Your subscribe group, you're going to have two groups. You're going to have customers with a product, customers without a product. The customers that have a product, you're going to want to make sure you tag them with the correct product so that when you put them into Kajabi, you have the tag, you know which products that you're going to be able to grant to them in Kajabi after you're done the import. I don't recommend that you grant anybody anything during the import process. I recommend that you tag them properly, and then you use that tag to sort them and then grant the product at that point. Non-customers, you're going to want to make sure you bring those guys over too. If they're subscribed, you can still nurture them within Kajabi in their email marketing platform. So you want to bring them over as a group. So non-customers that have come into your system, and they may have some freebies or they may have some actions going on that you might want to identify them with a tag. So it kind of depends. I know that when we track our people in our account, we like to tag each freebie that they download. So you may have something similar to that. Whatever method you have for tracking of what's happening with your leads, you're going to want to make sure you include those tags in the import for them when you bring them into Kajabi. Now, once you have all of your segments kind of figured out, and it can be very simple if you don't have a lot going on in your previous system, but it can be very complex if you have a lot of different groups of people. So I can't really give you a specific, exactly how you're going to do it for your situation, but just think through it logically of the different groups of people that you want to have tagged as you bring them into Kajabi, so that you are making sure that you identify who those contacts are and what do they get in Kajabi once you bring them in. Because the worst thing you could do is bring people into your Kajabi, you import those contacts, and there's no tag on them and you have no idea what they get and why they're even there. So everything that we tag, or everybody we bring into a new Kajabi account, we want to make sure we're tagging. Pro tip, when you're importing your people, we always like to add in a little import tag. So it helps us to know that those people came before we were in Kajabi. So you could put imported and then the date of when you imported them with the year as well. And that information is super valuable. You'll see that in the future, when you're going through your contacts and stuff, you can kind of see what's happening with people who were previously imported and new people that are in there. They're clearly identified as separate contacts in your list. So just a nice little tip to keep things a little bit organized. So, and we put that tag on everybody that we import, regardless of which segment they come in under. Kajabi allows you to have up to 100 tags, which is a lot of tags. I know some of our clients do need more. You can request more from Kajabi once you max out of 100, but for importing purposes, 100 tags should be enough. You want to just make sure you slim things down, streamline them, so you're not going over that max of 100 tags. Now, typically when you export your contacts from another platform, the information you get can be really messy, and Kajabi might not be able to read all of the columns properly. So you're going to want to clean up your Excel sheet before you put anything into Kajabi. Kajabi is able to map out several different columns, up to 50 different columns of information from your export. So if you have a lot of information coming from your previous platform into Kajabi, you could slim it down and make it a little bit easier to manage, but Kajabi does hold up to 50 if you really do need that much data fields to be imported. Now, once you've got all your segments figured out of what they're going to be, that's when you need to start dividing up your contacts by those segments. Now, we're going to look at how to actually sort your sheets so that it imports into Kajabi really well. We're going to get to that part in a minute. But first thing you want to do before you do that is actually get each of your segments in their own spreadsheet, okay? Your own Excel sheet for every single segment. So you might have to do a lot of Excel manipulation just to get those contacts into the right groupings, but that's kind of part of the hard grunt work, the prep work that we have to do in order to make the actual import process really simple. So get everybody grouped by single Excel sheets, and then you're going to want to make sure your Excel sheet is nice and tidy and cleaned up. And we're going to take a look at what that looks like right now. Now let's prepare our Excel sheet to be able to import. So when you are exporting from another platform and you want to put it into Kajabi, you're going to have to maneuver or manipulate your spreadsheet a little bit, because sometimes the data that comes out is not exactly what Kajabi needs. So we're going to have to do a little bit of work. So this is a sample export, all fake names, fake emails. I actually won't be able to import this into Kajabi because of the fake emails, but I can use it for an example to show you how to adjust your spreadsheet so that it actually will import properly. All right, so first thing you'll notice on this page, we have first name and last name on two separate columns. Now, Kajabi doesn't like that. It wants it to have the name all in one column, so first and last name together. So the first thing you're going to have to fix on your sheet is the name if they come into separate columns. So the easiest way to do that is just go beside column B and insert a new column to the right, and we're going to call this name. And we're going to use an Excel formula to be able to quickly go and put the first and last name together. So you don't need to do this manually. You can just use this formula. You can grab the formula from this video. It's pretty straightforward. We're going to just copy all of that, copy, and paste that in. So you'll notice that as soon as I pasted it in, there's the formula, it automatically pulled the first name and last name together, which is really handy. Then you can take this little bar, drag it down, and you can bring it all the way to the end of your list, and it will automatically put all of the names in nice and neat for you. Now, if you're missing any first names or last names, now would be the time to fix them and put them in if you have them. If you don't have them, that's okay. Kajabi needs at the minimum an email address. It will import if there are no names. It's not a really good list if you don't have at least a first name to be able to identify the person, because we know that people have the same first names. So it's really important to get a first name and a last name if you can. But don't worry, Kajabi will accept it with just an email. All right, other things that you might want to adjust. So when you're importing into Kajabi, the main thing you want to have in there, aside from the email and their name, is a tag. You're going to want to tag people for whatever it is that they are that they have purchased from you. So there's a column here called tags. You can have more than one tag in here. This is just an example. Course name for short is CC, and they're a paid member of this course. Whatever tagging convention you have is fine. If you want more than one, you're gonna put a comma in between it, and let's say I have another tag, course creation completed. So let's say I had an automation going on in my system that when they finished the course, they got the tag that said completed. So if I want that information to carry over into Kajabi, I'm going to want to make sure that I have that tag included on the people that have that. So let's say it was those people. Okay, so your export from your other platform, you want to just double check to make sure that the tags are listed properly and that they are a comma with a space in one cell. So just the same as we did having to combine the name, you may have to combine your tags as well if they come in separate columns, depending on your export. So get them all into one category here. Now, here's the caveat. You don't necessarily have to have your tags listed in your Excel document. You can actually add the tags during the import process when you're in Kajabi. So if you just want to give the name and the email and that's it, and then you want to tag that group of people as you import them, you can totally do that too. It really just depends. If you get a really nice clean import, then you're going to want to just, a very clean export from your other platform, you may just want to do the tags here. It can just be a lot simpler. So either way, it doesn't really matter. Every other column that you have is really going to depend what it is. When we go to put this into Kajabi, it's going to map these columns. And if it understands the name of that column, it'll map it automatically. If it doesn't understand it, it's going to ask you to help map it. Now, sometimes when you're exporting from another platform, you might end up with a bunch of columns that are blank or just useless that you don't need. You don't really want to put that into Kajabi because then it has to map it and then it's just even more work. So clean up your sheet right now by removing anything you don't want to put into Kajabi. So in this case, I'm going to delete all of those columns. I don't really need a member ID. I don't need all this created at. That stuff's not important to me, so I can delete them. You can keep your original export spreadsheet. So if you ever needed to go and get that information, you still have it, but it doesn't need to go into Kajabi. You don't want to take a mess and put it into Kajabi. You want to put in the most clean thing that you can possibly do. Now, I don't even need to put in the product column here because that's not really going to do anything anyway because the names and stuff in Kajabi are a little bit different. So it's easier to just do the tag. So when you're importing from another platform, you're just going to want to use tags to segment everything. So put your tags here or do your tags on the import. So now let's export it. When you export it, it's really important that you download it as a comma separated values document, a CSV. You don't want it as an XLSX file because Kajabi is not going to understand that. It needs to be an actual CSV file for Kajabi to be able to interpret it properly. So that's the last step for getting your Excel sheet prepared and ready to upload. Now, lots of people ask me how many contacts can we do in an import? Well, the limit is 4,000 contacts in one import. So that is for a day. So if you're going to move over 80,000 contacts, you can only do half that list in one day. So 40,000 contacts one day, you're going to need to wait at least 24 hours before you can do the next import. That being said, don't start emailing your people right away either. You need to make sure you're following best practices when it comes to warming up your email. So if you just imported into Kajabi, don't start blasting your entire list right away. Just start to warm them up a little bit so you don't run into any deliverability issues. One really important thing to keep in mind that if you do grant an offer during this import process, Kajabi is going to send your contacts an automated email. So if you are not prepared for your people to get an automated email from Kajabi saying that they've been granted a specific offer, then don't grant your offers during the import process. You can do that later after the import process is finished. Okay, so just really keep in mind what Kajabi is going to do if you do hit that grant button. Now, once you're in your contacts area, you're going to click on the button at the top that says Add Contacts, and you're going to import CSV. Once you're on that page, we're going to upload a file. Yes, you could copy and paste from your Excel spreadsheet. I find that messy and slow, so we're going to upload the file since we've already prepared it anyway. We're going to hit Select a File, and when you click it once, it's not going to do anything. You have to select twice. Why? I have no idea. It's just a little Kajabi bug. So click that button twice. Now I've selected the sheet that I want to import. I'm going to hit Continue to Upload. And then it's going to map all of those columns. So if we did a really good job cleaning up our spreadsheet, this part will be easy. If you try to import a really messy spreadsheet, this part will suck really bad. So that's why we removed all of those extra columns, because we want to make sure that it's just mapping the stuff that we need. When it doesn't recognize something, it's going to tell you and it's going to ask you, what do you want me to do with this? So as you can see here, we have it coming in as first name and last name. Well, we don't really want first name and last name to be separate, right? We want it to be just their name all together. So we're going to actually go and skip this column. Okay. And then we're going to go and skip the last name. And now we're left with this first name column. Now it still doesn't recognize it. And I'll show you why. When you go in here, you're going to go to an existing field and you will find from here which one does it actually want it to be. Well, in this case, it wants it to be first name and last name together as one. Now, yours might say full name, yours might just say name, okay? Because you can actually customize those fields. Okay, so once I've identified which column that is, you'll see it's skipping these two. It's recognized the email right away. It recognized the tags right away. And now we've fixed the mapping for first name and last name. So now we can move into import contacts. And now we have some choices here. And these choices are really important that you get them right. Okay, this is where I see most people mess up the import. So the first thing you want to do is decide if there's any tags you want to add. Now, in the last page, you saw that I already had the tags imported from the spreadsheet, so I don't have to do it again here. But if I didn't have any tags in my spreadsheet, then I would definitely need to attach some tags here. So you can just click on it and you can select the tags that you want. You can also make a new tag right here in this place. So I'll click on that here, and then we can do CC paid member. So you'll see that I can type it. It doesn't come up because I don't actually have this tag, but I can go and add a new tag. And then now you'll see that it came as an option. I can click on it and you'll see I've got it as a choice now. So I can do that very easily here if I didn't already have it in my spreadsheet. That's kind of redundant right now. The next thing is I can decide if I want to grant any offers. I don't recommend you do that right on import. I recommend you do that afterwards. Once you've got your people in, then you can go back, select all those people and grant them their offer, but you can if you really want to. Most important thing that you want to do here is subscribe them to email marketing. Now you can only do this if you actually have permission to email them. So in your previous platform, if they've already granted permission for you to be able to email them, you can carry that permission over here into Kajabi. If you have people that are unsubscribed from your other platform and they said, no, don't email me, you cannot bring those people into here and subscribe them. Yes, you can bring them into Kajabi. You can grant them their products and you can give them the things that they paid for, but you cannot subscribe them to email marketing. So in that case, you would not check this off. So this is where you can kind of see where it's really important that you bring people in to Kajabi in groups, into segments. So if you're putting in a segment that is subscribe people, then you would click subscribe. Then you have to import another segment of unsubscribed people, in which case you would not check this off. So that's the reason why we have to do separate segments when we import, which we had talked about earlier. All right, so once you've got that, you can decide if you're just subscribing to newsletters. Probably not at this point. You can always do that later. It doesn't need to be done right now. Now you can go ahead and click Continue to Summary. And then you're just going to check to make sure everything is there that it should be. You know, total number of contacts, we have mapped the columns. We only had 3, skipping 2. And then you go through this list here. We're not giving them any offers. We've got 1 tag. Again, it's only going to count the tags that I set on that previous page. It will do the tags inside of the Excel report. You just won't see that in the summary here. All contacts will be subscribed, and they will not be subscribed to marketing SMS. So if you have permission to send them text messages and newsletters, then you can make sure you check that off. Once that's all done and you're happy with it, you can go ahead and hit confirm import, and boom, it'll all be there. I'm not going to actually import this because these are fake emails and we don't want to actually import fake emails into my account. A couple of key things that I want to remind you before you do your import is to make sure that you know what your segments are, what your tags are, and make sure your Excel sheet is nice and cleaned up so it's not messy when you try to import it. And then you also need to make sure that you are hitting subscribe for the people who have permission for you to email them, and you're not clicking off subscribe for those that you don't have permission to email them. So now if you have any questions about your import before you get started in that process, feel free to drop a comment below, or you can come join us in the Unstuck Me Club. That's where you'll find Malva and I answering all the tech questions about Kajabi. If you love this tutorial and you want to go check out some more, check out the video that's posted on your screen right now that Kajabi recommends that you might like it.